The streets were cold and dirty. Mia was hungry. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. She looked through a trash bin behind a cafe, searching for food. Then she smelled something, burning rubber. First, she ignored it. Just another broken car, she thought. But then she heard it. A baby crying. Mia froze. Across the street, smoke came out of a parked car. Inside, a tiny baby screamed in its seat. Flames started to grow. "No!" Mia shouted. She ran across the road, dodging cars. The heat hit her face as she reached the car. The door was locked. "No, no, no!" she said, panic rising. She grabbed a rock and broke the window. Glass cut her hands, but she didn't stop. She reached inside, unbuckled the seat, and pulled the baby out. Seconds later, the car exploded. Mia fell back, holding the baby tight. Her heart raced as she looked at the crying child in her arms. "Thank you! Oh my God! Thank you!" a woman screamed, running toward her. It was the baby's mother. She hugged her child and then turned to Mia. "I owe you everything," she said, tears in her eyes. "Please, come with me." Mia hesitated. This stranger wanted to take her somewhere? What choice did she have? As they drove away in a fancy car, Mia held her bleeding hands and wondered what would happen next. The car stopped in front of a big house. It wasn't just a house, it was a mansion. Shiny windows, tall gates, and perfect grass everywhere. Mia stepped out, her legs shaking. She'd never seen anything like this before. Her life had been on the streets. Dirty, cold, and unsafe. This place felt like a dream. "Come inside," the woman said softly. "You're safe here." Safe? Mia wasn't sure she believed that, but she followed anyway. Inside, everything was bright and fancy. Soft carpets, golden lights, and expensive furniture. A man stood near the stairs, holding the baby tightly. His face was pale, but he smiled at Mia. "This is Mia," the woman said. "She saved our daughter." The man nodded. "We can never repay you," he said quietly. They took her to a room. It was bigger than any space she'd ever slept in. There was a soft bed, clean clothes, and even food waiting for her. Mia looked around, confused. Was this real, or some kind of trick? That night, she lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling. Memories came back. She thought about her old life. The yelling, the hitting, the reason she ran away. She promised herself she'd never trust anyone again. But these people seemed different. They were kind, grateful. Still, something didn't feel right. Why would rich people let a homeless girl stay in their perfect house? Mia didn't know the answer, but she planned to find out. The next morning, Mia woke up in the soft bed. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she remembered the mansion, the fancy room, the baby she saved. A maid knocked on the door and brought her breakfast. Fresh fruit, warm bread, and juice. Mia stared at the food. She hadn't eaten like this in years. "Thank you," Mia said softly. The maid smiled. "You're welcome. Mrs. Victoria wants you to feel at home." Victoria. That was the mother's name. Mia nodded but didn't say anything. As the days passed, Mia tried to adjust. The house was quiet, too quiet for her. On the streets, there was always noise. Cars honking, people shouting. Here it felt strange. Victoria treated her kindly, almost like family. She asked Mia about her life, her past. But Mia didn't tell her much. She didn't trust anyone that easily. One day, Victoria took her shopping. "You need new clothes," she said. Mia hesitated. "I don't need anything," she mumbled. "Nonsense," Victoria replied. "You deserve this." They bought jeans, shirts, shoes, things Mia had never owned before. But as she looked at herself in the mirror, she felt out of place. These weren't her clothes. This wasn't her world. At night, Mia stayed awake, staring out the window. Something about this house didn't feel right. The parents were nice, but they whispered a lot. And sometimes, Mia caught them looking at her strangely. She didn't know why, but she knew one thing. She couldn't let her guard down. Not yet. One night, Mia couldn't sleep. She wandered downstairs for a glass of water. The house was dark and quiet, but she heard voices coming from the study. She stopped, listening. It was Victoria and her husband. "We can't keep her here forever," the husband said. "It's too risky." "She saved our daughter," Victoria replied. "We owe her." "But what if she finds out?" he whispered sharply. "What then?" Mia's heart raced. "Finds out what?" She crept closer, trying to hear more, but the voices dropped too low. She hurried back to her room before they noticed her. The next day, Mia decided to look around. While everyone was busy, she slipped into the study. The desk drawers were locked, but one was slightly open. Inside, she found papers. Her eyes widened as she read. A birth certificate, but the names weren't Victoria's or her husband's. Who were these people? Mia stuffed the paper into her pocket and left quickly. Later, in her room, she stared at it. The baby wasn't theirs. Not really. That night, Mia asked Victoria casually, "Where did you get the baby?" Victoria froze, her face pale. "What do you mean?" "I just wondered," Mia said, trying to sound calm. Victoria forced a smile. "She's ours." "Why would you ask that?" Mia didn't answer. But now she knew. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Over the next few days, Mia noticed more strange things. Phone calls cut short when she entered the room. Locked doors she wasn't allowed to open. And those whispers, they never stopped. One afternoon, Mia saw a man outside the gates. He wasn't dressed like a guest. He looked dangerous. When he saw her watching, he smiled coldly and walked away. Mia's stomach tightened. Whoever he wasn't there for a friendly visit. She realized something. She wasn't just staying in a fancy house anymore. She was caught in the middle of something big. Something she didn't fully understand yet. But one thing was clear. The baby's life might be in danger. And Mia had to figure out why. The man outside the gates didn't go away. Mia saw him again the next day and the day after that. Each time he stared at the house, his eyes cold and sharp. Mia tried to tell Victoria. "There's someone watching the house," she said one morning. Victoria waved it off. "Don't worry about it. Just stay inside." But Mia couldn't stop worrying. She felt like a storm was coming, and she was right in its path. One night, she heard footsteps in the hallway. Quiet, careful footsteps. She peeked out of her room and saw a shadow moving toward the baby's nursery. Her heart pounded. Who was it? She grabbed a lamp from her bedside table and followed silently. When she reached the nursery, she froze. It was the husband. He was holding the baby, looking at her with a strange expression. "What are you doing?" Mia whispered. He jumped, startled. "Nothing. I just wanted to check on her." But Mia didn't believe him. His hands were shaking. The next morning, Mia confronted Victoria. "What's going on?" she demanded. "Why is someone watching the house? Why does your husband act so weird around the baby?" Victoria sighed, sitting down. "You're smart, Mia. Too smart for your own good." "Tell me the truth," Mia said firmly. Victoria hesitated, then spoke. "The baby, she's not ours. Not legally. We adopted her, but there were complications." "What kind of complications?" Mia asked. Victoria looked away. "Her biological parents, they weren't willing to give her up. We made sure they couldn't fight back." Mia's stomach dropped. "You stole her." "No," Victoria snapped, then softened. "It's more complicated than that. They were dangerous people, Mia. We did what we had to do to keep her safe." Mia didn't know what to believe, but she knew one thing: the danger wasn't over. That night, Mia woke up to loud noises downstairs. Voices. Shouting. She crept out of her room and saw two men in suits talking to Victoria and her husband. "You shouldn't have taken her," one man said. "Now everyone's looking for her." "We're her parents now," Victoria argued. "She belongs with us." The men shook their heads. "Not anymore. Give her back, or this ends badly." Mia's heart raced. She ran back to her room and locked the door. They weren't safe here. None of them were. Mia knew she couldn't keep the baby safe on her own. The men outside the mansion had made one thing clear. This wasn't just about Victoria anymore. It was about the baby's real family. The next morning, Mia went to the maid who'd been kind to her. "I need your help," she said quietly. The maid frowned. "With what?" "I'm taking the baby to her real parents," Mia explained. "They're looking for her. She belongs with them." The maid hesitated but nodded. "All right, I'll distract everyone while you leave." That night, the maid started a small fire in the kitchen. A distraction. Smoke filled the house, and everyone rushed downstairs to see what was happening. Mia grabbed the baby and slipped out through a side door. She didn't look back. Outside, the streets were dark and quiet. Mia ran as fast as she could, holding the baby close. She didn't know where to go, but she remembered something. One of the men had mentioned a name. Elena. That must be the baby's mother. Mia searched online at a library the next day. She found an address linked to Elena and decided to take the risk. When she arrived, a woman opened the door. Her eyes widened when she saw the baby. "My baby!" Elena cried, tears streaming down her face. Mia handed her over, her own heart breaking a little. "Take care of her," she whispered. Elena hugged her tightly. "Thank you. You saved her life." Mia stepped back, ready to leave, but Elena stopped her. "Wait, please come inside." Reluctantly, Mia followed her into the cozy home. Elena introduced her husband, Daniel, who looked just as grateful. They weren't scary or dangerous like Mia had imagined. They were warm, kind, and full of love. "We thought we'd lost her forever," Elena said softly, cradling the baby. "You brought her back to us. We can never repay you." Mia shook her head. "I didn't do it for repayment. I did it because it was right." Elena smiled, then reached for something on the table. It was a small envelope. "This is for you," she said, handing it to Mia. Mia opened it cautiously. Inside was a check, for more money than she'd ever seen in her life. "No," Mia said quickly, pushing it back. "I can't take this." "It's not charity," Elena insisted. "It's a gift. Use it to build the life you deserve. You've already given us the greatest gift we could ever ask for, our daughter." Mia's throat tightened. No one had ever done something so kind for her before. "Thank you," she managed to say, her voice trembling. Before leaving, Elena hugged her again. "If you ever need anything, anything at all, you come to us. You're family now." As Mia walked away, she clutched the envelope tightly. For the first time in her life, she felt hope. The baby's real parents weren't villains, they were heroes. And they'd given Mia a chance to start over. Mia didn't spend the money right away. She wasn't used to having anything, let alone something so big. For days, she kept the envelope hidden under her mattress at the shelter, thinking about what to do. Finally, she made a decision. First, she paid off her debts at the shelter. The staff had been kind to her, and she wanted to give back. Then, she bought herself new clothes, sturdy shoes, and a backpack filled with supplies. But Mia didn't stop there. She remembered all the kids at the shelter. Kids who, like her, had nowhere else to go. So she used some of the money to buy food, books, and toys for them. One day, the social worker noticed the changes. "Where did all this come from?" she asked, surprised. Mia shrugged. "Just wanted to help." The social worker smiled. "You're amazing, you know that?" Mia didn't feel amazing, not yet. But she felt lighter, like she was finally doing something good with her second chance. With the rest of the money, Mia enrolled in school. She hadn't been in a classroom since she was little, but she was determined to learn. Every day she studied hard, even when it felt impossible. Slowly but surely, Mia began building a new life, one based on hope, kindness, and courage. Mia's journey wasn't easy. From saving the baby to risking everything to reunite her with her real parents, Mia faced choices most people couldn't imagine. And now, with the gift Elena and Daniel gave her, she had the chance to change her own life too. But here's the question. What would you have done if you were in her shoes? Would you have kept the baby, knowing it might mean safety and luxury for yourself? Or would you have returned her to her real parents, even if it meant walking away empty-handed? And what about the money? If someone handed you a life-changing gift like that, how would you use it? Would you keep it for yourself? Or would you share it with others who need help too? Mia chose to do the right thing even when it was hard. She gave the baby back to her parents because she knew it was the right thing to do. And when she got the money, she used it not just for herself but to help others too. Her story reminds us that even in the toughest moments, we have the power to choose kindness over greed, bravery over fear. So tell me, what would you have done? As months passed, Mia grew stronger and more confident. She made friends at school, found joy in learning, and started dreaming about the future. One day, the social worker asked her again, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" This time, Mia had an answer. "A helper," she said firmly. "I want to work with kids like me, kids who don't have anyone." The social worker smiled. "You're already doing that, Mia. You've helped so many people, including yourself." Mia nodded, looking out the window at the bright sky. She didn't know exactly what the future held, but she knew one thing for sure. She'd keep choosing kindness, because sometimes the smallest acts of courage change everything. Now I want to hear from you. Where are you reading this from? Are you curled up at home, scrolling on your phone during a break, or maybe reading this late at night under the stars? Let me know in the comments. I love hearing from people all over the world who connect with these stories. What did you think of Mia's journey? Would you have made the same choices she did? Share your thoughts below. Your words might inspire someone else who needs to hear them today. If you enjoyed this story and want to read more tales of courage, resilience, and life-changing moments, I'd love for you to join our growing community. Subscribe to Life Turning Points and never miss a story that inspires, challenges, or moves you. Together, let's keep exploring the turning points that shape our lives. Thank you for being here and for taking the time to read Mia's story. You're amazing, and I'm so glad you're part of this journey.